So if you've been on my channel at all, you might know that I like Google products. I really like Google products. That being said, there is Google for Education certification, and I am a level 2. So based on all that, do I think Google for Education certification is worth it? 1000%. Let me tell you why. But first, don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below and like this video if you are interested in Google certification. Also, let me know down below why you're thinking about getting it. So I had a really good background with Google knowledge to begin with. So I had been working with docs, I had been working with slides a little bit, and I started to dabble in Google Forms and definitely Google Classroom. But last spring, it was brought to me by my principal and my superintendent. Hey, do you know anything about this? What do you think about it? Should we do it? So I was like, well, okay, let me look into it. And I did the level 1 and level 2 because, go big or go home. And honestly, it was one of the best choices I made. So in the training program that we're gonna look at in a second, it gives you an in-depth overview of every single program that they use, and even better, how educators are using those programs in their classroom. There's also a ton of great bonus features that you don't know about Google that you'll hear about in that training. I 1000% recommend that you do this Google program. And if you don't want to pay the certification test fee, totally fine. But the trainings are 100% worth it. So let's dive into what those look like. Okay, so we are looking at the Google for Education Teacher Center, and it goes through the training courses, guides on all of their products, all the things you can do, the kinds of certifications. So I'm actually an Educator level 2. Bruno. So I'm an Educator level 2. But I did take 1, and then of course I took 2. So we can talk about both. Talks about programs, so you could be a trainer, an innovator, you could be a coach. There's also other resources here, and then communities. So let's look at training courses. And Educator level 1, you have 3 hours to take that exam. I'm a fast test taker. I did not take the 3 hours, but that's gonna depend on you. So there are some multiple choice, but most of it is can you do the task that we're asking you to do? So could you freeze a column in Excel? Could you make a website or whatever it was? Performance tasks, that's the word. So most of it is performance tasks, which I think is a really good way to measure this, because it's not just can you tell me what are the things you can't do in Google Calendar, but could you actually make an event and attach a document? Because you need to be able to do the skills, not just talk about the skills. So let's just click on the level 1 to see all that it includes here. So if I hit get started, okay, so for both exams, you're gonna need to create an account. You'll buy the exam, you'll receive an email with all of the links and things you gotta do, and then you'll actually take it. But before you do all that, you're gonna wanna do their trainings, which I think are the best part of this program. So you click on the start training, and these are the training courses from earlier. So this is fundamentals, getting ready to use technology in the classroom. So safe, responsible digital citizens, get Google tools for the digital classroom. And a lot of these things they put in here do have feedback from current teachers, giving you ideas on what you could do with these X, Y, and Z things that they're talking about. Okay. So here on this training page, let's just click on Unit 3, have a mostly paperless classroom. So when you click on the introduction, you notice that each section was broken down by how many minutes it thinks it will take you to do that. Depending on your education level, how familiar you are with each Google program, it might take you less time. Most of those times I probably took 30% of what they projected, but I had a really good background on the Google products to begin with. So I didn't need to learn how to create a Google Doc or how to create a Google form. I got that already. So take that with a grain of salt. Understand that that's probably the maximum that you would need to do it. Okay, So each one tells you what will you learn in the unit, gives you your objectives, just like any good teacher would. So if you already know this material, feel free to skip to the unit review at the end. Definitely did that for a whole bunch of things. But they talk about, hey, we're gonna cover forms, docs, drive, drawings, all of these things in here. And then what skills do you need to be successful? So what prior knowledge do you need to have already? Managing folders in Drive, how to upload files, all of these things, okay? And then it even tells you what's next. Let's go to your activity. So this is the first activity. It says it'll take 17 minutes and it's a beginner skill. So this is actually the second part of that unit 3, because that first page we were on was just the introduction. Okay, so there's a little intro video talking about Google Drive, and all of this is made by Google. So it has their full formatting. It has all of their possible knowledge on it from the programmers who developed all of this. And then there's a lot of these like kind of worksheet questions. So it's like jot down 2 ideas about how you could use Google Drive in your school. And then you can see what other educators said, like I was talking about. So see how they're using it, because they do your job every day, not a Google programmer. So they're gonna know how to use that program effectively. And there's a whole community of Google educators that you can access and ask questions like this of. So that's totally free, you don't need to pay for that. Then at the end of each one, there's a little lesson check and you can check your answer. So it says you can add content to true, check answer, correct. And then it just keeps going through the whole thing. And then you go to the next activity and you can keep going until you hit the unit review. And really, they expect you to cherry pick lessons from here. So do what you really need help with and skip what you know. There's no need to completely redo everything. So each activity I mentioned has teacher feedback on what they are using those things for, why that skill is important, how it helps them. If you want even more feedback, you can go to the Google Educator groups. So I just clicked the Communities tab at the top of this, and what they are is just a bunch of Google educators who are in like a chat room, and you can go ask questions. You can do online and offline events with them. You can find a group near you, all of this. So there is a lot of support with this, and having that baseline of Google certification does help. So some of the other things that make the program really exciting is it teaches you a lot of the ins and outs of the programs and some of the fun extra features they have. So on my screen currently is Google Maps. But when you look at Google Maps, that's not what you usually see. If you zoom out all the way, you get to the outside view of the planet. And then you have this whole map on the other side of other planets that you can see. So like I can go look at Europa and it'll take me there. And then I can zoom in on this planet and see what we can see about it. So you can take your kids to space on Google Maps. One of the other things that it showed me that I use is Your Plan, Your Planet. It's a sustainability effort from Google. But when you click the Let's Get Started, it shows you 4 different categories on ways that you can reduce waste to help make the planet healthier. So like stuff, water, food, and energy. I use this a lot when we talk about our Earth and space science. So like if I click the food one, it does all the cute little graphics, and I can play games. I fill out like a short survey, so I waste an egg a week. I waste, what else? 2 slices of bread. Let's say I waste 5 cups of milk. You would go through the whole thing. But then it tells me I waste 6 school buses full of water. It tells me my CO2e driving for 4 hours. That's how much waste I'm generating. Then I get to play the game of where do you store the food to keep it the freshest? Like related activities that are well designed, thoughtful, they look great. This is great for us to use in science classrooms, but most educators have never heard of it. And it's hiding in that Google certification training. So I really recommend that you do that just for all of those bonus features that you don't know you're gonna need, but it's so cool that they exist. So the other thing I wanna mention, With level 1 training, I think the hardest part was Excel, because that's something as teachers we generally don't use that much, but it does really give us a lot of valuable things. So I did a video on Excel, and I'll link that right here for you in case you want to check out more Excel things, or you know that you just don't have a good background in that too. For the level 2, I really remember that Google Sites was something they were really excited about. I also did a video on Google Sites that I'll link up above. I actually made my wedding site on Google Sites because I just like the program so much. In fact, pretty much every program that's on here, I do have a video on, and I'll link that playlist down below for you, because I definitely have done videos on Classroom, several on Classroom. I did one on Slides, Sheets, Jamboard, Forms. So all of those can be used to help you as well. But I do really recommend the training that they have, because it does offer a lot of bonus features and it's flexible. So all of this, it says it takes 15 hours, but feel free to cherry pick what you need. Also, this is a website that's available anytime. It's not like a 2-hour training you have to go to at your school building. So this might be a great thing for you to do over the summer to get PD hours if your school allows that. It also just might be really helpful for you if you know your school is really going to commit to doing more Google products. All right, guys, that'll wrap up this video on Google certification. I hope that most of you do decide to take the plunge. I found it so enormously helpful, just with all of the bonus tips that are in there, and just like learning more of the even more advanced features of some of my favorite programs like Forms or Slides. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up down below and consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, y'all.